So the day that I made this post in regards to the guy who got the perfect score on the showcase, it happened to be on June 3rd, which oddly enough was 93 days before the anniversary of The Price is Right. The Price is Right first ever episode with Bob Barker aired September 4th, 1972. So for whatever the reason I was drawn to this story 93 days before the anniversary of The Price is Right. The Price is Right equals 93. Bob Barker, 93 years old. And what really interests me about Bob Barker so much, and the oddness of something in regards to him popping up, and I'm talking about all of the stuff in my own personal life. I talked a whole lot about Father Howard Fitzgerald, but the other main priest that I talked about was Father Paul, who, strangely dies of a heart attack in the bathtub at the Jesuit residence in Creighton, a Jesuit university. He was a Jesuit, and everything about his death was all about the number 63. He died on March 30th of 2010. That has a date numerology of 63. He died age 63. Father Paul in gematria equals 63. Also, he died 6 months, 3 days after the Jesuit anniversary. And then I discovered this more stuff about Bob Barker on the date of 6/3. And then, of course, as I'm looking up Bob Barker, I find out that he grew up in South Dakota on the Rosebud Indian Reservation. And this is where Father Paul was a priest in the year 1984. And he was there I believe he was there for like 13 years. And he talked about it a lot when he came to the town that I live in, because he had been there so long, and he compared a lot of things to it. But in regards to the Jesuits, so Jesuit equals 84. Father Paul became a priest here in the year 1984. Rosebud equals 84. I also noted that if you write out Father Paul strip matter, his real name, it equals 93, like The Price is Right. And Father Paul also died 3 months, 18 days after Bob Barker's 86th birthday. And this number is just an interesting number. According to the show Touch with Kiefer Sutherland, and also the kid in that movie is the main character in the movie The Darkness, that is about the ancient Native American spirits or whatever that are trying to come through to the other side or whatever. And it's all about the Anasazi Indians and the Anasazi demons, and this kid steals the rocks and brings them to his house or whatever and opens up a portal and whatever else, But it's all about Native Americans, right? And then Bob Barker and this priest that I've been recently talking about, they both pretty much lived on this Indian reservation for how long? So interesting that their Father Paul would die 3 months, 18 days after Bob Barker's birthday. The TV show Touch, the 318 is the God number. The sequence begins with 318 and it ends with 318. If you haven't checked out that show, check it out. But also in non-movies and everything else, 318 is a special number in regards to the reverse of pi, and also the return of Jesus is mentioned 318 times in the New Testament. I also noted that Happy Gilmore came out on February 16th of 96. And if you go from February 16th to 6/3, it's a span of 3 months and 18 days. And that's where Bob Barker was Happy Gilmore. If you go way back in a lot of my videos, I talk a lot about Philadelphia and also Happy Gilmore, because he learns how to putt on the Earthquake golf course, and the building that falls over looks a lot like the Comcast Center with the black cube on the top. And in Revelation, Philadelphia is special. The Church of Philadelphia is, where they reference the synagogue of Satan, the key of David, and out of all this Gabriel stuff that I've talked about, Gabriel equals 135. The key of David also equals 135. But moving on, so I also noted in regards to 84, so Rosebud 84, Jesuit 84, Father Paul became the Jesuit priest in Rosebud in the year 84. he was also born on a date numerology of 84. 7 plus 12 plus 19 plus 46 equals 84. I also pointed out that if you write out Bob Barker's name as Robert Barker, in the reverse method, it equals 191, just like Society of Jesus, which the Jesuits are. And if you write out Drew Carey's full name, Drew Allison Carey, it equals 184. And Father Paul died 184 days after the Jesuit anniversary, but it was also 6 months, 3 days. And I don't know, I still haven't completely figured it out, like what 184 is, but it's a super significant number that's it's interrelated into a lot of what I'm talking about. I even talked about May 13th a whole lot, and my birthday is 184 days before May 13th. And my daughter's full name and my nephew's full name both equal 184. And they both had some connections in regards to Gabriel. So, in regards to the main article, the main point of this whole post kind of was this guy right here, Terry Kniess, who's got the perfect showcase on The Price is Right. And if you look it up, a lot of the articles say that he did it, in 38 years. The show's been on for 38 years, but it was actually only 36. Anyway, 38 makes a lot of sense why a mainstream article would keep mentioning the number 38, because Bob Barker equals 38. Bob Barker's birthday is 3 months and 8 days after the first ever show. So the first ever show that he hosted was 3 months and 8 days before his birthday. Bob Barker equals 38. And before Drew Carey began, they aired Bob Barker reruns up until October 12th. October 12th is 38 days after the original ever episode aired on September 4th. I also pointed out the word death equals 38, and this guy's name who got the perfect showcase, his name in Gematria equals 163, which is the 38th prime number. Although it is 36 years, but it's just interesting that's how they reported it on a whole lot of articles, 38 years. And basically what happened with this guy is him and his wife sat down and recorded every episode of The Price is Right, and they noticed a pattern, and they noticed that they don't ever change up the prices of things, so they just memorized the prices of all of the items, and they were always the exact same amount. And on the showcase that he finally made it to, he didn't know what the exact amount would be, but he knew that it probably wouldn't be over 24,000. So he decided to make his guess under 24,000. And supposedly he just added the number 743 to 23,000 because it's the date of his anniversary and the month of his wife's birthday. So 7-4, they got married on April 7th is what it said. So interesting, he did it the backwards way, 7/4 like they do in other parts of the world. And then March, the 3. So 7-4 and then 3. And that's how he supposedly guessed the exact amount. I mean, yeah, right. It just doesn't, possibly, but yeah, right. And the day that he got married, he also got married in 72, which is the same year that The Price is Right, got really famous because of Bob Barker and whatnot. That's when they came back with the remake of it with Bob Barker in the year 72. Same year this guy got married. He got married on a date numerology of 102. Drew Carey equals 102. The Price is Right equals 102. So I finally found the episode actually aired on December 16th of 2008, which is 36 years, 3 months, 12 days after the first ever Price is Right with Bob Barker. So it was 36 years after the first episode. The date numerology of this episode was also 36. 12 plus 16 plus 8 is 36. The big thing that I wanted to point out was that it's 3 months and 12 days, though, after the 36th anniversary of The Price is Right. And 312 is this big number I've talked about in regards to the Jesuits. I talked about it in regards to the Archangel Michael. If you write out Archangel Michael in Gematria, it equals 312. The word Pope equals 312. Pope Francis's real name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 312. And the reason I even discovered a whole bunch of this 312 was because of all the Gabriel stuff. And that's why it's interesting. And that's why I'm pointing it out, I guess, because all of that stuff is kind of like what made me be drawn to The Price is Right to begin with or something. So I also did a little more research and I looked up the old school Price is Right, because The Price is Right was a show dating clear back to 1956. But look at this. The show only aired until 1965 and it quit airing on 9/3, right? Remember, Price is Right equals 93. Bob Barker currently 93 years old. And it also even mentions that it was one of the few games to survive the rigging scandal of the late 1950s, right? I mean, how ridiculous. It's all been rigged ever since that, I've shown it with multiple game shows, how they're all rigged by the numbers. It's all been rigged. It's still going on. It still exists. I'm sure if I looked even deeper, you would find that the rigging scandal was just all part of the rigging. They tell you it's rigged, then they make a law, and everyone believes it's not rigged anymore. And it's the same people who control the laws that control the game shows, that control the TV shows, that control the radio, that control the mainstream news articles. I mean, look at this. The original host of the old Price is Right, his name's Bill Cullen. Bill Cullen in Gematria, 102. Just like The Price is Right, just like Drew Carey. You can't make that up. I don't see how people can discredit this. And I've showed it on Jeopardy. Like I said, Alex Trebek equals 40, Jeopardy equals 40, Ben Glebe equals 38, Idiot Test equals 38. There's a ton of connections to a lot of this. I'm sure if you went through and looked at all of the game shows, you would find connections like this. Anyway, I also posted then, I posted more about the Catholic stuff. Happy Gilmore equals 145, Catholic 145. Bob Barker, the host for 35 seasons, Catholic 35. Cheech and Chong was the reason I even found this article to begin with. Cheech and Chong equals 71 like Catholic. And in the reduced reverse, the guy who got the perfect showcase, his name equals 71 like Catholic. And I mentioned about the Comcast Center and the earthquake in Philadelphia and whatnot. And I added more to it, I guess. Carl Weathers, who's also Apollo Creed, they were big topics in that. And in the movie Happy Gilmore, he's Chubbs, that equals 35 like Catholic. Carl Weathers in Gematria, the reverse way, equals 191. Apollo Creed equals 191, the reverse way. Just Apollo equals 71. And also 91 in reverse, like space. And I've talked about how the space theme is interrelated in regards to the Jesuits. Society of Jesus equals 191. I also pointed out that Happy Gilmore is only playing golf to get his grandma's house back. And my own grandma, Ellie Murphy, equals 63. Even her real name, Eleanor Murphy, equals 63. And 63, this big number connected to the Jesuits. Talked about my uncle dying at the age of 63. His full name equals 191. Died 191 days before his birthday. A 4th degree Knight of Columbus. I also pointed out that the day that I made this post and was drawn to this article, it was a span of 174 days after Bob Barker's 93rd birthday. The Price is Right, the big way, equals 174. And it was also a span of 5 months, 23 days, which reminds us of Drew Carey's birthday. But gonna leave it at that. Just wanted to show some of this coding, some of the reasons why I even looked it up. And, once again, show another example. It's funny, it even says I posted it at 12 a.m., even though that's not correct. But Bob Barker's birthday of 12/12. And if you go back and look at the space stuff, I was talking a lot about the number 12. So I don't know. Something to think about. Have a good one.